Red Bull marched to another dominant victory in Saudi Arabia, Sergio Perez leading from the front, whilst Max Verstappen stormed through the field from 15th to complete the team's second consecutive 1-2 finish. We may only be 2 races into the season, but F1 will already be concerned that its millions of newfound fans will slowly decide not to tune in, just to watch one team deliver endless crushing victories, and will be considering its options with a possible rule change. Obviously, this isn't the first time one F1 team has vastly separated itself from the rest of the pack, but Red Bull's impressive start to the 2023 campaign does raise some interesting questions. How dominant could Red Bull actually get, and is there anything that could possibly hold them back? The team is currently on an upward trajectory that began in 2020, piloting the semi-quick RB16 to a distant second in the Constructors' World Championship. This was followed by successful title contention in 2021, utter dominance in 2022, and has continued to stretch its advantage in 2023. Of course, we've had multi-season eras of one-team dominance before, and this competitive cycle of Formula One performance has gradually become the norm. Ignoring Red Bull's commanding performance in 2022, you only have to look back to 2020 to see the peak of Mercedes' superiority, which saw Lewis Hamilton and Valtteri Bottas share 13 race victories in a 17-race season. Rewind 20 years further, and Ferrari was the team on top, Michael Schumacher and the iconic F2004 combining to form an almost unbeatable combination. Across 5 seasons, the German won 57% of all Grand Prix and captured 5 consecutive Drivers' World titles, an accomplishment only rivaled by Lewis Hamilton's ascension beginning in 2014. So why can't Red Bull do the same in 2023? Well, one reason, as outlined by Mark Hughes for Motorsport, might be Liberty Media. After all, it was one of the prime drivers for the introduction of the ground effect regulations that would make it more difficult for any team to find a big advantage. But unfortunately, that's not proven to be the case, and Red Bull's advantages only continue to grow regardless of the big regulation reset. So as a result, the F1 owners will be monitoring the situation carefully. If Red Bull dominance correlates with a slowing or even a reversing of the world's recently boosted interest in F1, don't be too surprised if the FIA change the rules in a bid to rein in Red Bull and increase competition. But why should the best be penalised? After all, it's hardly Red Bull's fault if its rivals have dropped the ball. Unfortunately, the answer is simple. Single team dominance just isn't good business. At the start of Mercedes' dominance in 2014, F1 saw a year-by-year decrease in viewership until 2018, when the emergence of Netflix Drive to Survive reinvigorated public interest. Viewing figures have remained fairly consistent ever since, but even just 2 races into the 2023 campaign, fans are already voicing their disappointment at the competitive situation. So you probably shouldn't bet against a regulation change just to keep things interesting. Other than that, the only thing that could possibly stand in the way of Red Bull and a second consecutive world title is actually Red Bull itself. The team have only had a few reliability scares so far, with the most damage being caused by a broken drive shaft on Max Verstappen's car that forced him to miss Q3 and start at the back of the midfield in Saudi Arabia. But the team could potentially have a far greater issue on its hands. Tension between Verstappen and Perez has slowly been climbing towards boiling point since the 2022 Brazilian Grand Prix, when the Dutchman refused to let his teammate pass in the closing stages, ultimately forcing the Mexican to miss out on second in the drivers' standings. The pair have yet to battle on track ever since, but Perez made his intentions clear ahead of the 2023 season opener in Bahrain, stating that if he didn't receive support in his own title pursuit, he wouldn't give it either. That rather steely remark was followed by an awkward encounter after Perez's win in Saudi Arabia, when Verstappen beat him to fastest lap honours, despite both drivers being told to maintain pace. Of course, Red Bull has been famous for instituting strict team orders in the past, usually in Verstappen's favour, but with a driver's world title on the line and at the wheel of a dominant F1 car, team strategy has a history of going out the window. As it stands, a Verstappen-Perez title fight appears to be the only hope of a battle at the front, although potential fireworks in the midfield could offer plenty of will-to-will action until another team catches Red Bull, or if F1 decides enough is enough.